Sandy Goldman will take over from here.
Okay, if everyone could go ahead and have a seat, we'll get started. It's 7 o'clock, and we like to get started on time so we can end by 8, and everybody can get home in this lovely weather. Real quick, I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I'm Sandy Golding, I'm president of Beaches Watch. For those of you who may not be familiar with Beaches Watch, we are a nonprofit citizens group. We were formed in 2004, so 9 years ago, part of the league. And our focus is on educating and involving citizens in the issues that affect our beach communities, primarily to make sure that our quality of life remains wonderful. So anyway, part of what we do is we have monthly meetings with speakers talking about issues that are important to our beaches communities. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to turn the floor over to our speakers. But we have a few announcements, and I hope you all got a copy of the agenda when you came in. The agenda has some information on here, primarily on the back side. We've got our elected officials for the beaches. So if you ever need anything, you have any questions, comments, or concerns, their numbers and their email addresses are here. And speaking of which, I'd like to recognize the elected officials that we have here tonight. From Atlantic Beach, we have Mayor Mike Morneau. And we have Commissioner Carolyn Wentz. Jacksonville Beach, we have Councilwoman Chris Hoffman. Where did she go? And then from Neptune Beach, we have Mayor Harriet Pruitt. And we have Councilman Scott Wiley. So thank you all for coming tonight as well. Very quickly, I want to mention a few things. If you didn't know it, Jax Beach is going to be looking at considering a food truck ordinance. Beaches Watch had a panel last year where it was a very informative panel where we had Steve Lindorf from the city of Jax Beach, and we had someone who was a food truck supporter, proponent, and we had a brick and mortar restaurant owner talking about all the issues surrounding food trucks. It was very informative. So now the city of Jax Beach has got a proposed or a draft ordinance that I'm not sure. Chris, do you have any idea when it's going to go before the council?
I don't. I know. I just looked at the agenda, the draft agenda for Monday. I don't think it's on there. So at the earliest, it will be 2 weeks from today.
And I know that the paperwork online had said that there might be a workshop. So is it possible that there might be a workshop first?
I think they'll probably wait and see what the public comment looks like and decide on the workshop at that point. But I haven't heard more about it. I definitely have a question.
Well, we've included the link, and it's a long link, but if you go to the City of Jacksonville Beach's website, you can find it maybe easier than trying to type this in. But if you go to the homepage, there's a place on the homepage where you can see latest news, and you can see a heading about the food truck issue. So it would be, if anyone's interested in it, you can go there and look at this ordinance. Also, Dancing in the Streets is coming up Saturday, May 18th. Beaches Watch always has a table there just to kind of hand out information, let people know about Beaches Watch. We have a volunteer sign-up sheet at the member table, which is the little table back there behind Mitch. So if you'd like to come out and enjoy a nice day, hopefully no rain, but with music and fun, and sit at the table for a couple hours, we would really appreciate it. We have the Friend of the Beaches Award. Nominations deadline is Friday, and for those of you that may not be familiar with it, the Friend of the Beaches Award is something that we do every year. We recognize an individual, a business, or an organization that is doing things in our community that enrich our quality of life, and we want to just take the time to recognize what they've done. A lot of times you hear more of bad things than you hear good things, so we like to recognize good things. This is a non-monetary award. This is just a recognition of the good work that they've done. So if you know somebody or a business or an organization that would be a good candidate for this award, please submit the nominations and information on the agenda here, about what you need to submit is on here. And as always, we encourage you to consider joining Beaches Watch. Our membership is $10 for an individual, $15 for family, and it just helps support our efforts. And one other thing, the legislative session ends May 3rd, and to that note, we are excited that we will have Representative Janet Atkins at our June 5th meeting. And so she will be giving us a summary of the legislative session, what happened, what didn't happen, that sort of thing. Should be very, very informative and help us better understand what things were passed in the legislative session that will have an impact on us. Does anyone have any other announcements they'd like to bring up before we move to our speakers? Okay. Well then, our speakers tonight are back for, we did this last year, so it's about a year since I think you guys were here. But we have Elaine Brown, who's with the St. John's River Ferry Commission. And then we also have Mitch Reeves, who's with the St. John's River Ferry Task Force. And both of these people have worked very hard over the last year to save the ferry. And of course, as you know, the ferry is still going, and which is great, and there's a lot of exciting things that are going on. So I'd like to turn the floor over to them and let them give you guys an update, because I'm sure there's some things that we as citizens can help them with. So Elaine, do you want to start?
Well, let's bring Mitch up.
Mitch? Okay, come on, Mitch.
I can't believe it's been a year since we were here. We could get Mitch up.
It's nothing like having a ferry. You know what? It's nothing like having a ferry crowd on with you. Nobody can follow her.
First of all, thank you for having us. And there's some really good news, and that is that we got $1 million via, and it's interesting to watch. And it is from the Florida DOT to the port to the city of Jacksonville and the commission, the Ferry Commission. And, you know, just because we're all family in here, it really would not have happened without a lot of lobbying in Tallahassee. One of the key people was Rich Raddick. Rich, stand up a minute. Rich had been over, we can't go together. And Rich is a finance guy and has been probably one of the most important people that we've had on the task force and then now on the commission. And he has gone over there and he has been secretary a couple of times. And it was through what he had to say to them that came from all of us, that came from you, that came from the work that's been done by the task force, certainly by the commission, the city of Jacksonville, all the beaches, cities. And so we got the $1 million. Let me tell you what the $1 million does. In December, we're going to have to pull the boat out. It's going to have an inspection that happens every 2.5 years. It's twice in 5 years or something like that. And so it's going to have to be pulled out. We're going to do it in December, late December, which is the slowest period of time for the ferry. And at that time, we know that it costs $600,000, kind of a base price, you know, and then whatever else they may find that we need, hopefully that $1 million will cover. So, having said that, that's what the $1 million will cover, which keeps us operational. Without it, and Sandy, I want to tell you that thank you for having Janet. We've already had Aaron Bean, and Aaron and Janet were the two sparks over there in Tallahassee. Aaron was on the Senate side asking for $1 million, and Janet was on the House side asking for $500,000. And it was moving towards the governor's office. It looked like it was gaining support. So therefore, yeah, I see Mike Borno over here, Mayor Borno. Mayor Borno and Mayor Latham went over to Tallahassee to lobby, and included in that was, you know, the ferry. And they had an appointment that they made with Adam Hollingsworth, who, if you guys remember, Adam was chief of staff for Peyton, and a friend of all of us. I mean, he is a friend of Jacksonville. And they had a great discussion with him, and he said he needed to have the business plan for the ferry. How are you going to support it? You know, what's going to make this thing go? How can we really say that it's going to be supported in the future without everybody having to dig into the pockets all the time? Well, the reality is that that's a hard case to make. They helped to make it. Rich went over there afterwards and made it for all of us. And the $1 million came out of it. So it was like this chain of events that really was, it was made up of an awful lot of people kind of behind the Wizard of Oz curtain that made it happen. But if you think of last October is when we officially had the money from the port, from the city of Jacksonville, that we saved the ferry. And from all the beaches cities, put in some dollars too. And so therefore, it wasn't a lot. It was enough to save it. We kept it going. I'm going to say to each and every one of you tonight that it's fragile. Not going to try to sugarcoat it for you. It's fragile. What we're trying to make the case for is that A1A is the signature highway of the state of Florida. And we want to get people off of 95 to 95 over to the First Coast. I know we've all heard about the First Coast for an awful long time, and what is it? But if we can get people over to A1A, they'll spend dollars in Nassau County, Duval County, St. Johns County, as they're touring from the north to the south. From the south to north is fine too. But what we feel is important is that all of us ride the ferry, tell our friends to ride the ferry, and it's good to support it and say you've got a ferry sticker, but it really is about ridership. And you can't make your case without saying that ridership is growing, or at least, it's in a position that we know that it's 250,000 cars, which is, and just to give you, I know I told you this last year, Sandy, thank you for money spent a year, but back in 2008, it was 450,000 automobiles. It's around 250,000 now. Economy, so many things have impacted it, but the most important thing is, A, we have to ride the ferry, we have to tell people to ride the ferry, and then the initiatives that I'm involved in right now, that Mitch is involved in, the commission is involved in, and I'm even going to ask all of you if you'll get involved with me in the initiative, is that it's about driving traffic and reminding people that this icon is a connection of A1A. That means jobs, economic development, and it means that we keep something that connects the beaches, islands, to the north from Fort George. And without it, I think that most of you can see that if you were on 95 coming from South Carolina, what you would do is stay on 95 and go in probably at St. Augustine, because if you didn't, if the ferry were gone, you would have to either go past the port and everything else. And so there's a lot going on, and that's kind of an update from where the ferry funding is right now. Kind of an update on it. But more than $1 million, what's going to happen with that? Some of the things we're working on, and I'm going to kind of save a little bit more of the A1A Scenic Coastal Byway before we end this conversation. But my partner in crime and the person who I think we spend an awful lot of time on the telephone, emails, etc., regarding the ferry and A1A is Mitch Reeves, and without him, I'm going to tell you guys, it would be an impossible chore for all of us to keep involved and keep citizens involved.
That was so emotional. All joking aside, let me tell you something. It's hard to come up behind this person right here. She wants to hold back, but when we started, when Councilman Gulliford started the project on the task force, he picked the right person to lead that. What a wonderful job she has done. By the way, on his behalf today, I was with him at City Hall today, and he could not make it tonight for another commitment. He wanted to say he was sad that he wouldn't be here, but he is such a great supporter for the fair. But Elaine has done a great job. Let me tell you where we're moving on with the fair. I inherited, I'm not sure if nobody else wanted to take it or what took place, but I took over the task force, and the task force has kind of moved on to a new world. And it's exciting because we're kind of moving on to the next level of where we want to go. You know, the task force was to save the ferry. And that was our whole thing, save the ferry, go out and fight for the ferry, go for the ferry, make it happen. Well, you know what? People like Elaine and everybody involved in it were volunteers. Not one person was paid, not one person. And I tell you, when you put on a Ferry Fest and decide you're going to put it on, when your chairman says, in 3 weeks we're having a Ferry Fest, and I go, as the event chairman, are you nuts? 3 weeks? People plan a year for that. We made how much was it, $20-something thousand? $20,000 in 3 weeks.
Over 10,000.
The baby was conceived and delivered in 3 weeks. $20-something thousand. But you know what that's exciting about that? It wasn't what we did. It was about the community. Feeling it. Coming out and saying, I want to be involved. I really want to save this thing. It's not a personal thing. I want to be involved. So here's where we go. We had a task force meeting a week ago, something like that. And we're moving on to this next level. And what's our next level? What do we want to be known for? What do we want to do the next level? We haven't saved a ferry, but we got to move on to the next level. And Paul brought up a great thing. I keep bringing him up. He's our new CEO. Is it what we CEO? President of Visiting Jacks. He said one of the exciting things about it is stop using the term saving the ferry. Use the term about the experience of the ferry. How do people understand how important the ferry is? Do you realize, let me ask you this. Is it okay for us to take Dayton Bridge on 9 a.m.? What would happen if we closed down? What would happen if we just put things up and said, you can't go over it anymore because we don't recognize it as a bridge? Would that affect anybody? I think it would. Well, you know, one thing that we worked on today, the other day, we worked on a great release. And this is a great effort of what's going on. We're not talking about the Ferry Task Force. We're not talking about the Ferry Commission. We're not talking about Visit Jacks. We're not talking about Beaches Watch. We're talking about, you know what? The great thing is we're all groups, but we're one community. And this is one project for us to move forward with. And one of the exciting things we're going to do on May 10th, which is
9 a.m.
9 a.m., May 10th, at Jack's Beach. And you know what, when I say that, when I say volunteers, do you realize that we have a city employee from Jack's Beach who took this project on? It has nothing to do with the city or his salary or anything. He took the project on to put. We're going to announce on May 10th, 9 o'clock at the pier. At the pier across the Lynches. And then after we do that, I guess somebody said we got to go into Lynches and have a briefing. I don't know what that means. Sounds good to me, but apparently something else is coming up after that. But what we're going to do, Elaine, why don't you explain that, and I'll show the signs what we're going to do with it. Because part of you know what I'm getting to? It's not about each individual. Yeah. It's not about each individual. It's about all of us together meeting the same goal together. So, Elaine, you'll start.
Thank
Why don't you go
you.
here?
The Greenway Trail, we talked about this too, and it's been a part of the whole push for saving the ferry and keeping the connection of A1A. And it goes from Maine to Key West. And if you want to just have an analogy, it's more like the Appalachian Trail, only it's on the coast. It's more jogging, bicycling, kind of a trail, walking, hiking, you know, being a part of beauty and seeing areas throughout, I mean, these thousands of miles, you know, from Maine to Key West. Well, the DOT in their wisdom had a partnership with Nassau County, and they've completed about close to 12 miles on the Heckscher Drive as you're headed north up into Amelia. It is stunning. If you haven't been there, you need to go. So you get off the ferry, hang a right, and then within about 3 miles, I think you hit one of the first entrances. And the whole thing is beautiful, but that's a part of it. As you're bicycling, as we're looking at ecotourism, as we're looking at being a place where people can feel as though we've preserved and we cherish and celebrate, you know, what we have as a community, how beautiful it is, how we're proud to live here. Well, having bicycling as a part of that is so important to how we live. You know, First Street's blown up bicycles as far as I'm concerned. You know, I don't even care to take my car down there. But throughout the beaches area, you know, we celebrate the fact that we live at the beach and they're a part of it, and this adds another dimension. So what Jack's Beach, Atlantic, and Neptune have done is they're putting up signage, and this is one of the signs that they will see, and there's another, and you will see a bicycle trail. Maps will be put out, and I haven't, but I didn't get it till late in the afternoon, or I would have given every one of you exactly what the trail looks like through all of the beaches area onto the ferry. But on May 10th, we will, at 9 a.m., have coffee and refreshments right at the pier, and we will unbag, I could say unveil, we will unbag the signage, which is part of the trail through all of the 3 beaches communities. And it leads, of course, you know, to or from the ferry, whichever way you're going. But without Jacksonville Beach, Lindorf, everybody on the Jacksonville Beach, and everybody has been a part of this. But again, it's part of the way that we live and what we want to celebrate and we want to promote as part of coming here and enjoying it and living here too.
So what we say is exciting because East Coast is a big organization, so East Coast Greenway is great. Can you imagine the embarrassment on us? Not just the experience of the ferry, but can you imagine the embarrassment with us about if the ferry went away? Guess what? Greenway, we just cut off the Greenway. The only place in the whole country just cut off a bridge, floating bridge, a highway, and a ferry. Wow. Aren't we really known in the country? So, what we did is we're promoting this. The commission has supported it. The ferry itself will be part of this because you'll see these signs on the ferry, as you will through Jack's Beach, Neptune Beach, and Atlantic Beach. Well, I kind of got involved in this with her and some other people, and I said, "Oh, this is great, man. We're going to promote the Greenway, and this is fantastic. Let me help you on this project." And they said, "Okay, you can help us." So I said, "So about every 5th sign, why don't we come up with this sign?" So what's going to happen is I do not have the 3rd sign that goes with it, but it's not really that big. The reason it's not big it is designed for, as Elaine said, hikers, bicycle people, and those type of people. So what you're going to see is you're going to see this sign on the top, you'll see this sign here, and then at the bottom, if you're not real intelligent where you're going, you'll have an arrow to tell you. There will be an arrow to tell you to turn left, turn right, go straight.
And there's a map.
And there's a map. So this is exciting. So we really would love for you to come out. If you're not doing anything on the morning of the 10th, come join us in front of Lynch's. We're going to have a tent there. We're going to leave there. We joked about going to Lynch's after. Well, we didn't joke about it. That was the night. Oh, that was the night before. That's right. Doing the pre-thing. But what we are doing is if we leave there at 10:30, we will be going to the ferry, where the bicycle people will cross over, and we're trying to work with Bernadine Beach. They did 12 miles of a private, 12 miles of private bicycling trails. Didn't cost any citizen a dime. These are people that just want to get out and do things. So what we're trying to do is meet with them to see if they can meet us at 10:30. The bicycles will leave from where we are in front of Lynch's, I hope, I wouldn't get there by 10:30 leaving Lynch's, but they're leaving they're gonna leave once we do the ribbon. They're gonna meet there, we're gonna try to get the Bernadita people to come over and take the ferry both ways across. So, it's not a big event, but it's a great event. And it'll be a fun event just to be part of it, because I think
Very
it's
significant.
I think it's history, don't you?
Yeah, it's very significant, and just to kind of underline the importance of it, is that as we get more advocates, as there are more voters, as there are more people who celebrate, enjoy, talk about, ride a ferry and utilize A1A and everything that goes with it, including, certainly biking and hiking and jogging, etc. That's what people who just crunch numbers say, oh, well, maybe, this is something worthwhile to keep. So don't think that you're riding it if you ride it, once every other month. Try to make it once a month. Tell your friends to ride it. Ridership is down. Dollars are down. We're hoping the summer will be great. Next weekend is the Shrimp Festival in Fernandina. Yes, I think about that. This weekend, next weekend. Yeah, this weekend, I'm sorry. The next weekend. So, what we're trying to do is the commission talked today about maybe having some excitement on their food trucks on either side of each landing, and maybe some entertainment, and we're kind of working on that. The most important thing is that we want to come into the 21st century with the boat itself, and you can use your debit card and your credit card on there. Remember when you had to go through your pockets and purse, and you didn't come up with the money, and you had to go all the way around? But now you can use your debit card and your credit card. The city of Jacksonville is working on an app. The app will give you real time as to where the ferry is, within seconds as to where it is. We're working on advertising that people along A1A, along that route, both north and south, could be a part of that app. In the future, we hope to have.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but even on the app, we're trying to work it out with the DOT to tell you if there's an accident on the bridge, there's traffic slowed down, to take the ferry.
There are a lot of applications for the app. Another thing that we want to do is, as you're taking your group across, pictures are so important. People love to take pictures of their group and smiling, and we're on the ferry, and having those be a link that you can see all the people that are, where they're from, that kind of thing. Not a lot of people, including my fellow commissioners here, are crazy about having a mascot, but we have thought about a whole naming of and designating a mascot, and the mascot would be a part of the education portion of it, the history portion of it, and just a lot of fun. So if we can keep this thing afloat, if we can keep the ferry going, there are a lot of things, but we just took it over in October. And we've been working on the $1 million, and we're working on permanent funding for it. And Mayor Borno and Rich and Mitch, Mayor Pruitt and Mayor Latham. So many people are involved with fingers all over the pie to look for permanent funding for it. And we hope maybe Sandy will invite us back here around September, and maybe we'll have some good news in that arena too. But I'd like to just, do I have a minute? Can I have a minute on the designation of the highway? The designation of A1A from Target is my story. When I go to Target and you go into Ponte Vedra, you've got the beautiful entrance saying A1A, Scenic Byway, highway. And we want to extend that up to Fernandina. And to do that, we have to have advocates. We have to have businesses and citizens that believe in the history and the scenic beauty of the route. And in order to do that, we need you. We need citizen input. We're going to be asking all of the city councils to sign a resolution in support of this. What it does, truly, is it gives us a bigger audience through the state of Florida and through national advertising that we have a historic scenic byway. And I will tell you, there are some people working on this that are making it look like, oh my God, if I lived in Nebraska, I would be heading down here immediately, because it's so incredible. We took Paul Asselford, Mitch, Morno, Harriet, all of us went on this tour on A1A, and do you know what he said to us? Why haven't they been advertising this? He could not get over it. Because what they have been advertising is Jacksonville and its beaches. But here we have this incredible, from the historic Red Cross life-saving all the way through the beaches, up to Fort George, and up to Amelia Island, and he was blown away by this entire experience, first time doing it, and quite frankly, we were too. We had a blast, it was so much fun. Kingsley Plantation, Fort George, Hannah Park, Talbot Island, the Fort George and the Kingsley Plantation, the route that you take through there is probably one of the most beautiful ever. Paul Asselford was taken by the fact that Carl Cannon, who was on the commission with Rich and I, he said, you know how you go through the mountains and there are overlooks where you can stop and take pictures, you know? On A1A, as you go over the first bridge, how am I saying that? You go over the first bridge and you look kind of back at Mayport and the Basin and over at the park, and he goes, this is incredible. Well, Mr. Cannon says, I want an overlook here. I want the DOT. You know how, I don't know if you, I mean, is anybody here from the DOT?
Do you know what happens if you stop at that beautiful overlook?
You get a
You
ticket.
get a ticket. Honestly,
And
no
every,
standing.
what, every 15 feet there's a sign saying, no parking, no parking, no parking, no parking. It's absolutely gorgeous. Another thing for the byway and for citizens who want to be a part of this to really be a part of. We've got history, we've got beauty. There is not a lot of places in the state of Florida that can match what we have in this area. We want to celebrate it, and I've taken on a task of getting a letter of intent into the state, to the Florida Department of Transportation, my best friends, the Florida Department of Transportation, to start getting us through this process. Probably about a 9-month process to get that designation. Once it's designated, there are grants, dollars that can come to us, and certainly more advertising. Yeah, I see John Ryan there from the Chamber of Commerce, and I want to just say to you, Chamber of Commerce, and John, you and everybody there have been so wonderful in helping us with all of this, and the Tourism Committee is behind us 100%. There hasn't been a thing that we haven't asked of the Chamber to help us with, both saving the ferry, the designation that they have come through, so I want to thank you very much. So I see you. And, but I have, maybe with me, if I don't, I'll make one up, a sheet that you can sign, and your phone number, your email address, if you'd like to become a part of this citizen advocacy group, CAG, okay, then you would go to maybe several meetings as we get this thing going, and then what they're asking, that in the future, if they give you the designation, is that citizens will stay in place, this is forever, stay in place to protect and preserve and to be advocates for that byway. So I'm all in. I'm asking some of you if you have some time to join me. We got a lot of people that are going to be a part of it, and this won't be the last time. I ask you, Sandy, to do this, and I'm going to send you some more information on it and get out to everybody. But it's important. It's part of saving the ferry, promoting the area, and celebrating, I think, the beauty and the history that we have.
I just want to end by saying this, and we'll take some questions. Is that okay, you okay, sir? I want you to think about this in your mind a little bit. You know, we talked about saving the ferry, there's a ferry, the history of the ferry, and all about the ferry, but it is more about, it's a bigger, broader thing about the ferry. It's about the life of Mayport, a beautiful community that we have that needs to be developed and can be a wonderful place to visit. Okay, that's part of that. You're talking about part of A1A, you're talking about part of the Greenway. You're talking about so many things. When you leave here tonight, if you ever, how many people drive down Elaine Boulevard, takes St. John's Bluff since 9, you know, 9A goes over St. John's Bluff. How many people have been on St. John's from Atlantic to Beach? How many people? What do you see now when you drive that route? You see nothing but closed businesses. Drive it. You see how many buildings and how many places, there's no business. Now take that vision, what you see there, and look at A1A. Is that what you want? You want people to bypasses? No, we want people to come through here. So be thinking about that. It's not just about a ferry. It's not a ferry. It's not about a ferry experience. It's about the economy impact of our community and the life of our community and our children and everybody else that enjoys it. It's about the lighthouse in Mayport. It's about to be able to go across and do 12 miles on a bicycle in Fernandina Beach. It's great about coming down 9A and seeing the beaches museum and seeing other things. You know, one thing that we found out that I thought was interesting is when we took this vision thing, and I'm going, okay, 8 hours on a bus. Wow. Trolley, I'm sorry. There is a difference. Trolley does this, the bus just does that. But you know, one thing I found out is we visited these hotels, Omni Hotel. How much they spend? $350 million to redo that place. $350 million. We visited the other one.
Ritz.
And then with the Ritz. And then we asked them, we said, what do you, when people say they want to go to St. Augustine or want to get out and do something, what does your people tell them? When they go there and say, here's the restaurants to go eat at. Oh, you want to go to St. Augustine? Oh, yeah, you do that. You know what they tell them? They tell them, go right straight out of here and hit 95 and go around. We haven't educated those people. We haven't educated those people. There's this history. Why would you do that? Why don't you say it's a beautiful city route to go through Atlantic Beach? And by the way, the best time to go through is lunch. Stop into, don't get about Jack's Beach, no offense. Stop in.
Do you mean that?
No, I'm kidding you. Because you just walked in, we didn't even announce you were here. But you know what? And then we realized the light came on and all of us said, wow, look what we're missing. Didn't we? We said, look what we're missing. I got on a plane, I don't have it. I just flew air train to Atlanta to Indianapolis. And there's a map in there, a beautiful map about North Florida. And I pulled it out because I want to use an example. It's a beautiful map. It tells you all these things about North Florida to visit. It takes you across the St. John's River. Doesn't even mention a ferry.
Not a word.
It's not even there. It's not even
Google
there.
it.
It talks about the parks, it talks about everything, but it doesn't tell you about our A1A and the great things. So if I sound excited, I am, because we have such a great future here that we can do it, but we can't do it without your help. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, and that's where we're going. You got something you want to go for questions?
Questions.
Okay.
I applaud what you're up to. Ever since I came here to Jacksonville, I've thought that we should be celebrating the Scenic Byway. We've got friends in St. Johns County, we've got friends in Nassau, we need to share their experiences with both the A1A South and the old Buccaneer Trail, you may remember, north. And we may want to riff on that a little bit too, because they celebrate their heritage around the Buccaneer idea a little bit. But I wanted to ask a question about the fence in Mayport. The JPA property there fenced off is one of the biggest eyesores that I can imagine would be
You don't like it?
imposing on that city. at that time. What can we do to get that fence removed as soon as possible?
Couple of things. Do you want to say those?
You take that one. That one's yours. I'll go with I'll take the lighthouse. You take that one.
you were the port, you're the port, and you're looking at it from the port's perspective. If it was wide open and someone, were injured on there. So their insurance and that's what keeps it, from the public going on. Anybody parking, there's land, the land in there is unstable. There's a lot of things under it, and then there's the water, and there's someone, fishing, whatever. So that's their reason. That's not Elaine's reason. That's their reason. As far as we know to date right now, I gotta stop myself from getting excited here because I'm not ready to announce this. But as far as we know right now, there is not an RFP or an RFQ that has gone out for development of that. There were a couple of things that the board's tossed around, but they're in the middle, as you all have read, of hiring their new executive director, president, CEO, whatever it is, and he'll be coming on board. I think that means, okay, now I got to educate this guy, and he's got to become now a part of what's going on. He's got to go and look at the land that they own, amongst all the other things that they're dealing with, which includes an incredible amount of things that they're dealing with. And their priority, of course, being the deepening of the St. John's River. So, do we see it going away by them in the very, very near future? The answer is no. The answer is no. The fence, by the way, just to give a little accolade to the Ferry Commission, have you guys noticed the JEA as you go down Ocean, approaching the ferry? Look on your right, just 2 blocks, I guess, 3 blocks from the ferry, on your right, and you will see a beautiful wrought iron fence that had been a chain link with barbed wire that we worked with the JEA, we got it removed, and quite frankly, it's beautiful. And people from Mayport have been thanking us for doing it too, but it was really the cooperation of the JEA. They were just kind of going, oh, you don't like that? We went, no, it's really the entrance to the ferry. It's ocean, and in the future, it will be what developers can look at, and that's really ugly. So they've come around, and next will be to kind of landscape it too, which will be kind of a fun thing to do. But that's a little thing. But in the future, the port has said they could cooperate with us for some citizen activities. And that I really, I'll tease you a little bit with the fact that, we've kind of taken that under our wing and thought that maybe there's something really exciting that could happen there. And, but as far as removing that fence, they have no intention of removing it, and their reason is risk management, and that's how. Maybe.
Elaine, a couple of things. First of all, the trip downtown on ferry to see the fireworks was brilliant. It was a wonderful time. And the other thing is, if the Ferry Commission isn't a member of Visit Florida, you need to be, because that's the way you get to Mayport Ferry into the airports.
Well, an ex officio member, just newly appointed, is Paul Asselford, who's in Jacksonville. And so the link is there, but you're so right, because to really get immersed into Visit Florida and the advertising budget that they've got, it's going to take the link, it's going to take certainly being a part of this wonderful experience that Paul had for a visit Jacksonville and working with both Nassau County, Duval, and St. John's. We came up with what I thought was a rather brilliant advertising campaign. We just haven't sold it yet, but it's Fort to Fort, from Fort Clinch to Castillo de San Marcos in St. Augustine, and everything in between, which we're part of. So, it's hard to even remember some of the meetings that we go to, what comes out of them, but we're stacking things up that will make that case. And you're right, we need to be very close to Visit Florida. I think I had the Mayor Warren. Did you begin?
You were trying to correct your mistake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, can we get any more details in regards to the Ferry Fest that's coming up?
Yes, we have researched to see what didn't interfere with any other events. And right now, we're looking at October, I think, top of my head, October 27th. We have a gentleman that puts on the boat show, Jim Peel, and he has volunteered. He is professional in how to get licensed and how to put on shows, and which is much better than I am. But he is dedicated himself at no charge to us to help us put that on this year. So right now we're looking at October 27th because, you know, at that time you're dealing with football and different teams, so we had to look who was coming. And it ended up, no offense, but FSU was playing that weekend and somebody said they didn't really care. So, please don't call me that. But something else.
Saturday's the 26th.
26th. The date is October 26th. But that's the date we picked right now for that. And it's going to be a fun time.
Bigger and better.
Bigger and better and a lot of fun.
I think you,
Back to your point is,
I think you said earlier that the $1 million has to come from the DOT through the port, through downtown to you. Have you got that money yet? And if not, do you anticipate any problems? Do you anticipate your $1 million to be $1 million
Yeah.
when it goes through all those hands?
We've got the word of the Secretary of the DOT that $1 million is coming. Rich, you want
I'm
to-
sorry,
The $1 million from the DOT is guaranteed.
have we gotten that yet, or is it?
Oh, the $1 million showing up, yes, it'll,
Just being a skeptic, when it goes through so many hands and when they're all looking for money, that's just.
There's no stealing as it comes to it.
I feel that way too.
let me add that that's a guarantee that was given to our state representative, Janet Atkins, and to our Senator Aaron Bean, so I feel fairly confident that they'll back us up if anything goes amiss.
Yeah, and actually they pulled their allocation requests because they met with the Secretary and that came from the governor, you know, to them.
We just see
It's
things
guaranteed.
get stuck downtown
It
often.
has nothing to do with downtown, it comes through.
Oh, it doesn't go
I thought you said
downtown.
Whitman had to go through that downtown.
City of Jacksonville is who owns the ferry now,
Okay.
you know, and the Ferry Commission is a commission of the City of Jacksonville.
Does the mayor have to agree to release that money?
That's
Yeah.
nothing to do with it. It's going through.
It's going through the port to the commission.
Yeah. It's something to do with an easier route, how to move it through that way, and that's what they want to, instead of DOT
It's
to
a port fund
go through.
that is coming.
Now, that's a great question, because we all trying to get to this next level, is how do we get this money, this maintenance money put into the DOT 5-year plan? Once you're in the DOT 5-year plan, you're there. They don't know how to change it, you know? So how do we get that money in that 5-year plan? That's what our goal is, to do that. And I'm not speaking for Senator Bean, and I'm certainly not speaking for Janet Atkins, but I'm gonna tell you, those guys are smart enough. They would have pulled their money if they didn't know some other things were going on. I mean, you know, I give it a bit of a lesson.
I'm wondering if you considered doing a ferry license plate?
I'm sorry?
Have you considered doing a ferry license plate?
You know, we actually did it early on until the, it's St. John's River something, that, the one that's housed in there with Warren Anderson, I saw you here earlier.
St. John's River.
Mark Middlebrook's license plate, what's the name of it?
St. John's River
Alliance, and they weren't doing well. They really were doing, and that would just hurt them, you know, if we did that, and, you know, so we really had, you know, that's kind of over here, but,
I have room on my front bumper, and that one sign you have for the ferry would actually work quite well on the front bumper if you put a couple holes in it.
you're wonderful.
Maybe
You
we
really
go,
would.
hey, you know what?
We could sell those, yeah.
Yeah, we're out. I like
She
that.
just came up with an idea.
Yeah, I like that. Because we're really out of the t-shirt. Matter of fact, there's only, I'll tell you,
We can sell those.
there's only 3, what's interesting, there's only 3 Save the Ferry sweatshirts in the country. 3. 2 is in this room today. The other one is hanging up in some guy's closet that never wears it, and he's in the
Is
room.
that you?
No, it's Glenn. Glenn has one back here, and they have a, here's something else that's exciting too. This is, you know what, I go to these commission, the ferry commission meetings, and that's why I don't know how they do it sometimes. because you sit in there, you got lawyers sitting in there, you got risk management sitting in there, and people, you know, I'm used to going to meetings. I'm used to people going, let's go do it, let's do it. Over there, there's a, well, risk management says, who's going to handle this? The lawyers go, who do this? The great news is, after how many debates, 3 or 4 meetings, we are now at a situation that we have a contract where we can offer the ferry to people like,
Private parties.
to private parties. We've had people with weddings that said, I'd love to have a wedding out here. I'd love to do this. So, yes.
About 30 years ago, when I was living the first time, I could ride my bicycle through Gannon Park, the base where I was working at. Now you can't. And, well, you know, the military has a turnover rate of about 40% every year. MWR doesn't know anything about this environmental practice. Knows nothing about the ferry. They don't advertise in any of the base communications that go out the base. Welfare, right? MWR, okay?
They rent canoes and they sell tickets to events and things.
And they do all that kind of stuff, but from getting across the ferry on a bike, you got to deal with A1A, which is, no, it's not bicycle friendly. Once you get, you know, if you ride the bike across the ferry, go up Wonderwood, go into Hannon Park, go on a back gate on Seminole Road, go down to the beaches on bicycles, you can get a lot more people. But Hannon Park is owned by the city of Jackson.
Great idea, and I'm going to ask you to chair a committee.
Two thoughts, or 2 questions or comments, I guess. One, back when the state originally gave or transferred the ferry to the city, at that time, the thought process was the ideal home for the ferry would be under JTA. I'm wondering if that thought is still active. And 2, ridership's down, money's down, prices went up. Somewhere, Lafayette has got to come into effect. It's 26 miles, 27 miles from slip to slip. You know, that's a lot of money for somebody that's going from Sand Dollar to the base or.
We got a committee for you too. It's an excellent idea.
Put a spin on it and say, we're giving back to the community, we're going to drop.
It's really not something we can
whatever.
comment on right now, but, you know, you're right on target. You really are.
So who sets the prices for the ferry?
Have we checked the price?
No, who sets the prices?
The commission.
Okay.
We had to go up. It's the first time in 18 years or something like that, but they got 15 years, something like
I
that.
believe when Jacksport took them over, I think they took
That's right, they did.
large increase in price.
We went up $1.
Ferry lost about half to a third of their ridership,
It's $6.
from what I remember. I believe it's $6, yes.
There's a lot of baggage that came with it, and, you know, we're kind of carrying that as we muddle along, and we're making progress, and JTA is in our scope too. So, good question.
Well, we're approaching our time limit here, I think, a little bit, so
Andy, thank you.
thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Elaine and Mitch, for coming tonight. And let me just make one announcement, because Mitch referenced Councilman Goldford. Councilman Goldford was planning to be here tonight, and he did want to let everybody know that there will be, to your point about Mayport and trying to revitalize Mayport and the importance of the ferry and A1A and historic A1A, there will be a Mayport CPA meeting on Monday, May 6th at 7 p.m. Oh, he said it was May 6th.
Maybe change it.
Is it 13th?
I don't know, he told me today 13, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
I could be
You
wrong.
think it's Thursday?
But you can put it out, I'll
Okay.
find
Well,
out.
we'll find out. Okay, so Mayport, at the Mayport Community Center at 7 o'clock. May something. It's a Monday.
Okay.
I thought he said next Monday in his message, which would be May 6th.
Double check, because he said 13, I knew we had a Land Beach City Council meeting on 13.
Can I ask a favor of you? If I just kind of send an email to you to ask if there are people who would like to be a part of the and there'll be others. There'll be, you know, as we go into Nassau County, there'll be more bicycle groups, you know, people that believe in the environment like Warren Anderson does, and, you know, so many people that believe in history, and this is a scenic byway. So I'll run that through.
I would also like, because people have asked for the tour that we did to visit Jacksonville, we have a very short video of all the pictures taken, and they're really interesting pictures. I will just email that to you if you want to share that with the group. It's not that long, but it gives an idea of really all the cities together, all including Rugby. It's good. It's a nice photo, middle picture.
Well, one other question, are you guys planning to do the boat parade again this year at the fair?
Rich, are we planning to do the boat parade again?
I am.
Because that was
Well, we haven't asked the commission yet.
But here and here, it will not be that cheap.
that was
We had a
fun.
waiting
That
list.
We
was
had a
fun.
waiting list, we did it, and that's the first time it's ever been. You know, something, I don't want to take the time to go on here. Two things happened last year that people didn't realize. Two things. One, the ferry has never been in a parade downtown. Never. Two, did you know the ferry has never been blessed during the blessing? And this year, by mistake,
No, last year.
no,
Last
last year, 2012, by mistake, the captain was smart enough to check with the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard said, you can't go straight in, you gotta go this way, and oh, by the way, you might as well just pass the priest as he goes by. It was kind of, but you know, that's two exciting things, it's never happened. And well, three, and then one thing this year, the ferry has never had a trolley on it.
Yeah, we were.
First time for a trolley.
Listen, you guys are